In this video, I'm going to give you my review of a new string from a brand called UNI-CORD out of France. It's called Stronger V2. Now, the color may look similar to the string I'm going to mention right here when I say what to compare it to, but before we get into that, if you don't know who I am, my name is Brody Taylor, and I've been working in a tennis retail store for the past 7+ years, as well as I do have my MRT certification, which essentially stands for Master Racket Technician. Now, what this means is that I took a test here in the US and luckily I passed, to where I am now one of, I think it's 560 people in the world, last time I checked, that took a test about rackets, strings, and how they work together, and how that's actually going to affect your game when you're actually hitting with these things on court. So, with that being said, Stronger V2, the company that this comes from is known as UNI-CORD. They reached out to me and they were like, hey, do you want to try these? I was like, sure, why not? I had never heard of them before, so I was like, shot in the dark, let's see what happens. So, the big thing about Stronger V2 is that this is a polyester string. We'll just go poly for short. So this is going to be a little bit more control oriented. It is going to give you a little bit more help with spin, but it's not going to necessarily focus on power too much, just because that's not what polyesters are typically designed to do. Now, Stronger is a little bit different from what traditional polyesters do, to where this is not shaped, this is actually circular. So with it being circular, it is going to be a little bit more powerful compared to some shaped strings, but it's not necessarily going to have as much spin as some of these strings that do have different siding to them. Those sides, as well as the amount of snapback, which we're getting a little bit technical right now, is what's going to help increase the amount of spin that's put onto the ball. Now, one other thing that this new Stronger V2 from UNI-CORD helps with is that I would say this is going to help with comfort. So, like I was mentioning with those shaped or sided strings, those typically can be a little bit harder on the arm because they are a little bit more harsh. That's how the string digs into the ball to help give you that extra spin. With Stronger being more of a round polyester string, it is going to be a little bit easier on the arm, so that way you can just play with it a little bit longer and not have to worry about it causing arm issues as much as some other polyester strings. Think of it almost more like a multi-filament in terms of that, but not nearly as soft, because multi-filaments are a completely different category on their own. Then next up, we have the gauge. So as far as I've seen, Stronger only comes in this 1.25 millimeter gauge. So it is going to be more like most companies' traditional 17 gauges, or if you look at companies like Solinco or Yonex, or a few other here and there, their 1.25 is considered a 16L. So it is a little bit on the thinner side. It is not as thick, so it's going to give you a little bit more extra feel, be a little bit more spin helpful, spin friendly, and just going to be a little bit more helpful with power, but it is going to be not as durable as something as the traditional 1.30 millimeters or a 16 gauge string. Then, if you can probably guess, like I said, from the color of the string as well as how I've described it so far, you would typically compare this string, or at least I would compare this string, to one called PolyTour Pro. So Yonex PolyTour Pro, and actually I have a pack of it right here. It's hiding from me. Oh, don't fall, water bottle. Right here, Yonex PolyTour Pro. If you look at these things, they're pretty similar in terms of color. And the thing is, PolyTour Pro is also circular. It is designed to be a little bit more of a comfortable polyester, but it is sometimes a little bit too, I'll say, soft. That's one thing I've noticed from playing with Yonex PolyTour Pro in the past, is that sometimes you do lose a little bit of the control because the actual string itself is moving around a little bit too much to try and just make it easier on you. That is what I have felt. Stronger, in my opinion, is a little bit more stiff compared to Yonex PolyTour Pro. So even though it is a circular string that is going to help you in order to give you a little bit more spin and be a little bit more comfortable, I'd say PolyTour Pro is still a little bit softer on the arm overall as far as polys go. Now, enough talking with this board behind me. Let's head to the court and see how Stronger actually plays.
Getting on court with the UNI-CORD Stronger V2, I have to say, the very first time I hit this racket, it went about like this. Yeah. So the string, especially the very first time you have it in your racket, it's going to take it a while to settle. At least it did for me. But after it does settle, as you can see from that backhand right there, couldn't come back. And weirdly enough, this next one-handed backhand, again, couldn't come back. And I don't have a one-handed backhand, as you'll see throughout the rest of these clips. I do have a two-handed backhand, but Stronger, it just felt fun to play around with, especially if I was getting able to use the 1E, as well as just being able to be a wall against my opponent. With the string overall, besides that right there, which was bad form and technique, I felt really confident in actually hitting the ball with striker, whether or not I was going for a high topspin shot to just bring it down into the court right behind the baseline, or if I'm just trying to go a little bit further into the court, just drive the ball really through. I think Stronger did overall very well. Because it was a round polyester, I wasn't expecting too much spin, but I did have plenty of good power. It was very helpful with control even after I've been playing with it for a while. I've had the string in my racket for multiple, I want to say at least 8 hours playing in what you're seeing now. And the string's still going well, but I would say that it probably lost its life around maybe hour 6 or hour 7, but it still played overall good. It was an interesting try and not half bad.
Now that we're back from the court, here are my final thoughts on Stronger V2 from UNI-CORD. So the big thing that I felt overall, and I probably have said this already, is just the fact that this string is fairly easy on the arm for being a polyester. When I first started hitting with it, it took me a while to get used to it, and I would say it definitely does have a little bit of time it needs to settle in the racket before it's fully ready to go. So that is something to keep in mind if you ever do think about trying this for yourself. I would say I personally would say that PolyTour Pro is just a little bit better for me, not by much, just because I would prefer my string to be a little bit softer on my arm, especially if I am using a full bed of a round polyester. Whereas with Stronger, I do get a little bit more of a stiffer response, so I do have a little bit more extra power. However, I don't think that's necessarily where my play style needs help with right now. I can typically generate a lot of power on my own. I just need the string to make sure that I'm not going to get tennis elbow or anything from actually playing. So that's where I would say I personally would prefer PolyTour Pro, but if you like PolyTour Pro and you want something that's just a little bit more powerful with a tiny bit of a different feel, then I think Stronger would definitely be something to look into, especially if you are outside the US or if you just want something new to try because you maybe never have tried a different string like this before. So, with that being said, if you like the video, leave a like on it, comment down below any questions you have, or if you've tried UNI-CORD strings before, I'd love to know if you have, what you thought about them, as well as subscribe to the channel so we can grow this channel and get the information out there from the people that have it to the people that need it. There's a lot of tennis misinformation in the tennis community, so I took it upon myself to make this channel so we can get rid of that and just all enjoy the game of tennis that we all love so much more without having to worry about injury from our gear. So, with that being said, as always, take care.